All right, so today brings us to our third and final topic in our customer fraud prevention series. We started this journey by discussing the different types of freight fraud. Last week, we talked about how to identify certain types of fraud associated with double brokering. And today we are going to close out our three-part series on customer fraud prevention by discussing how to combat fraudsters once and for all. Okay, so if you haven't done this already, the first thing that you can do is set accountability standards both internally and externally. Prevention only goes so far if your broker provider is doing a good job vetting carriers, but you are not, and vice versa. Okay, let's start with the internal standards. Upon arrival, make a copy of the driver's cab card and/or driver's license. Please make sure these copies are filed in secure location as to protect the identity of those drivers. Next, photograph, capture on video surveillance, or visually check that the MC or DOT number and the trucking company's name on the side of the truck matches the one provided to you ahead of time by your broker. Now use extra caution when loading a carrier that has makeshift or no information visible on the outside of the motor vehicle. That right there is a red flag. Make sure to always assign unique pickup numbers and get drivers to authenticate those numbers once on site. Certain shippers have notoriously been targeted based off their rural location and/or unique product, because information such as loading times, price, commodity, and destination can easily be recovered by bad actors and used fraudulently. So verifying those pickup numbers or PO numbers and not just confirming consignee or commodity is very important. Certain geofencing visibility software can also aid in combating some of those fraudsters. Finally, for internal standards, use trailer seals. Depending upon the value of your shipment or your level of exposure to fraud, you may want to consider using more heavy-duty trailer seals other than just plastic, such as metal, cable, or high-security lock seals. Okay, so those are some of the internal standards you can take. Let's talk about now some of the external ones, starting with setting firm carrier requirements. So certain parts of the country, such as California and Illinois, are notorious for fraud registration hotspots. Having continuous authority minimums, such as 1 to 2 years, in fraud-heavy locations, and a minimum requirement of, say, 6 months, regardless of where the carrier is registered, may limit your carrier pool, but will greatly decrease your exposure. Next, require load tracking. Arguably speaking, visibility in today's age has become one of the most important differentiators in the transportation sector. Companies like Project 44, MacroPoint, Forkites, and Trucker Tools are some of the leading visibility providers currently in the market. As a broker, utilizing visibility software should be just as common as having a TMS or CRM system in place. Furthermore, the exchange and tracking information has become relatively seamless through EDI and API integrations, as well as custom visibility portals and AI updates. And while none of these tracking solutions are perfect, adding a level of security and visibility to your operation is never a bad thing. Now, keeping on the external accountability standards, what about key management involvement? When was the last time you jumped on a call with a handful of key players at your provider's organization to discuss their fraud and security protocols and how they are striving to keep your freight safe? If it's been a while or never at all, now's the time to get something on the books. And I'll give you a little hint here. If there's any type of hesitation as to why your provider wouldn't want to get on a call with the key players at their organization, they're probably not doing enough to keep your freight safe. Finally, inspect what you expect. Periodic carrier audits of insurance certificates, authority tenure documentation, and safety score verification is a responsible way to make sure the agreed upon standards set between you and your broker are being met. All right, now on to number 2, leveraging your broker's resources. So we already talked about the different visibility platforms you can take advantage of through your provider and how different types of integrations can automate updates. Now let's talk about utilizing your broker's internal network. On average, there are an estimated 50 to 100,000 duplicate or fake loads posted daily to public load boards. Mass email and TMS blasts to dozens or in some cases hundreds of brokers can artificially inflate market rates, creating a false sense of purchasing power for shippers. In today's market, it's not necessarily about the size of your network, but more about the consistency of your network when it comes to keeping bad actors out and good ones busy. I would suggest asking your current provider what technology and resources they utilize to keep their freight loaded on reputable carriers already within their established network. Digital freight matching software such as Parade has only made this easier for those who choose to take advantage of that type of technology which can sync directly with carrier monitoring software. Companies like Highway and RMIS have sophisticated algorithms as well as customizable safety standards that help keep those bad actors out. They also continually monitor internal networks, so if safety standards ever become unsatisfactory, automation immediately removes their active status. From tracking IP addresses to confirming ELD footprints, when it comes to safety and compliance, integration and adoption of carrier monitoring software is a must. All right, so we've covered accountability standards and some of your broker's resources to utilize. Now let's talk about our final topic, team education. Unfortunately, bad actors are always looking for new deceptive ways to commit fraud. And while I don't have the statistics in front of me, I believe the mass majority of fraudulent activity that takes place in transportation is preventable through heightened awareness alone. Simply knowing what to look for can end up saving any organization countless dollars. And the best part is, it doesn't cost a dime. Hopefully your current broker or provider has taken an advisory stance on the situation and is providing relevant content regularly to help keep you and your organization safe. Now, what about just knowing what to look for? This can be a developed skill. Just as a skilled carpenter may notice a small imperfection in a piece of wood that the average Joe may never spot, asking the right questions at the right time or knowing what rock to look under when suspicion arises makes a world of difference. Next, get buy-in from the top down. It's not making sure that everyone in your department understands the severity of freight fraud. You need buy-in from all parties involved in the decision-making process. Now, I get it, this can be challenging in most cases. However, making sure that everyone in your department understands the severity of freight fraud and cargo theft in our current environment will only add to the layers of protection surrounding your organization. So in conclusion, while fraud is a very real concern, it is highly preventable. The steps we discussed today to combat fraudsters involve setting both internal and external accountability standards, taking full advantage of your current advisor's tech stack and their internal network, and educating your team on new and current ways bad actors are committing fraud. I hope this 3-part series has been both applicable and educational. Make sure to check out the comments section for relevant resources to help you stay fraud-free. And thank you for doing your part in the fight against fraud. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.